Today, I'm going to attempt to explain one of the most inexplicable signs in astrology. Hola, beautiful souls. Welcome back or welcome to my channel, where we aim to use astrology, spirituality, and wellness as self-development tools to become our highest selves every day. If that sounds like something you're interested in, don't forget to subscribe and head over to Instagram if you're into more background content, life updates, and additional astrology content, and more. Today is all about Aquarius Mars, and what this means is that at the time that you were born, the planet Mars was moving through the constellation of Aquarius. This is not the same as having sun sign in Aquarius. That is completely different. I will have an introductory portion at the beginning of the video introducing you to Mars and astrology and what that energy entails. That way you can better understand the rest of the video, so be sure you're watching that. Then we'll have a section for general traits of somebody who has this placement, and we'll finish off the video with a couple empowering tips, because I do not like to just leave you with all this information. I like to try and give you a couple actionable ways you can improve your life with this placement, so be sure you watch that. First, let's briefly discuss what Mars means in astrology. First off, Mars is the planet of our quote-unquote animalistic instincts, action, ambition, desire, and passion. It rules over the zodiac sign Aries, but it's also the co-ruler and traditional ruler of Scorpio before Pluto came into the picture. The Mars placement in our birth chart can give us insight on how we physically take action in the world, what ignites our inner fire, and how we tame or transmute that fire into reality. Whereas Venus is about what we are attracted to in the physical realm, Mars is more so how we actually act on, pursue, and express those desires. It is the primary conductor of our innermost passions, and it gives us a direct pathway on how we assert ourselves in the world. Remember to check if Mars was retrograde at the time that you were born, because this also affects how its placement manifests in your life. When you pull up your natal chart, check to see if your Mars has a little R or RX next to it. This indicates that that planet was retrograde at the time of your birth. Now, for the general traits of somebody who has Mars in Aquarius. First, it's important to remember that Aquarius is the fixed air sign, ruled by Uranus, co-ruled by Saturn, and symbolized by the water bearer. Number 1, Mars in Aquarius often refuses to conform and must maintain their own sense of autonomy through consistently challenging the norm. Here, the physical planet of assertion and ambition infuses Uranus, the planet of rebellion and innovation, as well as Saturn, planet of restrictions and discipline, with all of its spark and energy. This creates quite the unique cocktail when it comes to how a person drives themselves forward in life. This is absolutely the type of person who must unapologetically experiment and devise their own path, which is inspired by their Uranus energy. But by devising their own path, they often simultaneously cause a disruption in the status quo, which is heavily influenced by the energy of Saturn being present here as well. This could be on a very small scale or a much larger scale, but some well-known figures that have showcased aspects of this placement on a larger, influential scale are Maya Angelou, Leonardo da Vinci, Nicholas Copernicus, Michelle Obama, and Elon Musk. What makes this placement so fascinating is that its natural way of expression can be quite the enigma to others around them. It's hard for others not to be curious about them and for them not to disrupt the status quo or disrupt their environment in some way, because you just don't know what this person will do next, what they'll say next, what the heck is going to come out of their mouth, what kind of thoughts are they having. People are naturally curious of that, and they want to see what this person has to say. I mean, Elon Musk is like the perfect example of this. If you go look at his Twitter and look at the things he says, how many times has he caused disruption? How many times has he gone viral for the things that he has said? When I found out he was an Aquarius Mars, it could not have made more sense, to be honest. But this is the type of person that tends to feel a sense of skepticism towards everything, and they always question the validity of everything because of this. Although skepticism is often seen as a bad thing, I'll tell you why it is not. With this placement specifically, it's often what leads them to pursue a more unorthodox lifestyle and to unapologetically go on the less beaten path. And this is because they always want to find a different way. Whether it's out of curiosity or out of intellect, they often see a path others can't see. So they are not afraid to start building that path on their own if they need to in order to walk on it. The reason that they do this is because they are often curious as to how things can be different, but they also want to find a more improved way of doing a lot of the things that a lot of other people just accept. People will just accept their way of life and accept that things are how they are, but not this person. This person refuses to. And this contributes to the sense of autonomy that they need to feel in their lives. They need to feel a sense of independence and like they're doing something different and doing something unique. It's what really feeds them. It's what infuses them with energy to do that. So by following this, they infuse their own sense of freedom, which is so important to their life. Number 2. This person usually isn't afraid of sticking by their odd or controversial perspectives and actions. Aquarius is the fixed sign, meaning there can simultaneously be an inherent stubbornness and an undying dedication to what matters to them. With the fixed energy of Aquarius intertwining with the fire and passion of Mars, we often have a person that remains unapologetically dedicated to what they deem superior or unique in the world. For example, on a very small, more relatable scale for all of us, say there's a new Netflix movie that comes out and everybody's raving about it all over the world. It's in the top 3 for like 2 months. I don't know, something crazy like that. And it's making such an influential impact on everybody, right? Everybody just is amazed by this movie. Well, the person with Aquarius Mars is the one who will challenge this sentiment. Whether they actually like the movie or not is irrelevant. They are going to use this as an opportunity to disagree with the popular opinion and perhaps offer the obscure work of some indie filmmaker who they think has already done this concept before and can do it better, and nobody pays attention to the indie filmmaker, blah, 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 stuff like that. Now, whereas this may come off as pretentious, I'm going to tell you why it is one of the things that's admirable about them. So here's why. This is just another way that this person is not easily swayed by the masses. They quite literally don't usually care if everybody is agreeing on one thing. And if their opinion differs from the public opinion, they are not afraid to stand by it and speak on it. They seriously don't care. And it's not even that they're just trying to sway the boat and they're trying to disrupt anything. It's just how they are. It's just the way that they function. They often can't mask the way that they function. Aquarius is not a very good masking sign, such as like maybe Gemini or Pisces. It often just shows up the way that it is, and it doesn't know how to show up any other way. But this trait is precisely what can draw the admiration and curiosity of others once again. A lot of people will admire them because they're not afraid to embrace what makes them odd or unique or maybe a little bit controversial. People will admire them for that because who are the people we admire most in society? They're the people who are forging their own path, doing their own thing, and doing it unapologetically. In fact, this is a type of person that will definitely see controversial judgments as a sign that they're doing something right. Their mind has the potential to be wildly expansive and innovative. Aquarius is an air sign, meaning there is a greater emphasis on the mental activity and the intellect. When Mars touches an air sign, it always infuses the mind with a lot of power unique to the air sign that it's impacting. With Mars in Aquarius specifically, this person has an extremely expansive and powerful mind. Connecting to the previous trait, they aren't easily swayed, and this can be partially attributed to how much control and belief they have in their own thoughts and intellect, often unconcerned with the influence of whatever others are thinking or doing what is deemed acceptable. Mars in Aquarius can give this person's mind the capacity to not only withhold so much information, but to think on such an endlessly expansive and innovative level that a lot of people are just not going to be able to comprehend. Going back to the famous Mars and Aquarius figures that I mentioned in the first trait, we have both Leonardo da Vinci and Nicholas Copernicus with this placement. Both went on to become famous polymaths, which are individuals that have a wide range of knowledge over many different subjects. They were attributed with laying a lot of the modern foundation of science and art, which is crazy because science and art are often considered two completely opposing subjects. But that just goes to show there is no limit to the level of genius that this placement can acquire. But not only were they well versed in so many different subjects, but they were truly far ahead of their time, which can be another marker of a lot of Aquarius placements. Aquarius is the 11th out of the 12 signs in the zodiac. And this tends to mean that they think on a higher level. They've reached a certain level of ascension that maybe others haven't. And they can tend to think on a larger scale and think with the bigger picture in mind. And oftentimes this channels into them thinking ahead of the curve and offering solutions and ideas that are innovative and ahead of the curve without even meaning to. To put this into perspective, it is said that if Leonardo da Vinci's studies had been published earlier, we could be progressed and advanced by an entire era in science, especially in the technological field. Now let that sink in for a second. One individual, by themselves, everything they discovered on their own, if it had been published earlier, like when Da Vinci was alive, we could be an entire era ahead. That is crazy because the progression that we've reached, the point that we're at with science and technology, has been the contribution of many brilliant minds, many intelligent people who have worked hard and studied and researched and got us to where we are now. But Da Vinci's studies alone could have advanced us by so much. That is incredible to think about. This truly just encompasses how wildly vast and expansive this person's mind can be and how it can be hard to even wrap our heads around how expansive they can be. But I think it's also worth noting that this trait is precisely what can keep them quite detached in personal relationships as well. So when we have Mars in an air sign, air is connected to the intellect. It's connected to the brain, to the mind. Mars is a very physical planet. It is connected to our primal instincts, which is what makes it connected to our sexual urges and things like that. So when you have that planet that rules over so much of the physical instinct, channeling heavily into the brain, into the mind, and into the intellect, we can lose the connection to the body. So this person can probably lack a lot of that physical drive and a lot of those physical urges, which, by the way, is actually an amazing thing for them because unlike a lot of people, they may not become consumed by the lower urges. They can keep themselves at a higher plane of thinking, a higher plane of thought, and a higher plane of existence. However, I just want to make it known that there can be a detachment there from the physical body, and that can feed into especially intimate relationships. If they have a romantic partnership with somebody, it can be tough for them to connect to the physical aspect of them. It's not that they don't love the person that they're with. It's not that they don't want to be with that person, but there can be a physical detachment from the body. So they can come off quite cold physically to other people because they're just not tuned into that part of themselves a lot of times. Or if they are going to tune into that side of themselves, or if there's any chance of it, they have to feel intellectually, mentally stimulated a lot. They have to feel like they still have their own sense of independence from the person that they're with, or even from friends, etc. Whatever partnership this takes form as, they need to have a sense of independence within it, and they need to feel stimulated mentally. This means being able to bounce ideas off each other, conversate intellectually, think innovatively, think expansively, and also not let yourselves become mundane. They do not want to feel like things are becoming mundane and monotonous. If somebody is making them feel this way, if a relationship is making them feel that they are becoming mundane and having to conform to a traditional way of life and kind of just letting everything fall to the wayside, they're not going to like that, and that's going to keep them fairly unhappy. And most likely, you're not going to connect with this person if you're making them feel that way. Number 4, this individual often makes some sort of impact on those around them. The symbol for Aquarius is the water bearer, symbolizing an individual that gives life to everything. This symbolism stems from an Aquarian's tendency to make an impact on those in their immediate environment and those of the collective, often having a humanitarian streak in some way. Because again, Mars is a planet that represents our outward ambition and how we drive ourselves forward in life. So it's natural that this person will often bring about mass change as a byproduct of them simply being who they are. And oftentimes, this is another marker of Aquarius placements. And a lot of Aquarians themselves would probably not consider themselves humanitarian in any way. A lot of people who are Aquarius or have Aquarius placements like this one, they may even listen to this and be like,
This is so stupid. Like, I don't want to be around anybody. I don't like being around people.
and whereas that may be true, people usually want to be around you. That's the key. People mistake this trait as thinking like it means there's some extroverted socialite that just wants to connect with humanity and this and that. No, it's actually often different than that. It's the opposite, because this person, especially with Mars and Aquarius, this person can often feel like an outcast, but others are impacted by them. Whatever it may be, people are attracted to them because they're just odd and humorous. They're quirky without meaning to be. So people like them and they think they're funny and they're charismatic because of that. Or whether it's because people admire the fact that they hold so true to their values, to their unorthodox way of thinking, their unorthodox way of life, and people admire and want to follow them because of that. Whatever it could be, people will admire and gravitate towards somebody with Aquarius placements, but especially Mars in Aquarius, because again, this is a physical expression. This is a physical planet. And because this person constantly seeks to question tradition and forge their own path, it's often normal for them to become quite memorable to those around them. And on top of that, again, since we're speaking about a physical planet, a lot of their Aquarian expression may be channeled into how they act physically. So whether it's they speak in an odd way, or they speak in a funny way, or they're super, super, super smart and intellectual, or maybe they dress themselves in an odd way. They express themselves physically. Their style is odd or unique. Whatever it may be, they're memorable because of that alone. They're not likely to be someone that you're going to forget easily. Even if you just say you work at a coffee shop and you interact with them as a customer, the customer has Aquarius Mars. That's probably a customer you're going to be talking to your coworkers about. They make that type of impact whether they intend to or not, and a lot of times they don't intend to. What's funny about this placement actually is they're often the type that absolutely despises trends, and they don't want any part of what's trending. But by detesting trends and rejecting them, they are often setting their own trends in the process. Now for a couple empowering tips for somebody who has Aquarius Mars, or if you know someone who does. Number 1, they may struggle with a sense of procrastination. Like I said before, Mars infuses the mind with so much energy and such powerful intellect, but with so much energy channeling into the person's mind alone, they may struggle to physically execute anything and physically move anything forward. If we're going back to the example of Leonardo da Vinci and Nicholas Copernicus, these two individuals were known for that. One of the reasons that the studies did not get published earlier for Da Vinci specifically is because he didn't push for them to be published. Them obtaining all the knowledge they obtained was not with the goal of publishing everything and becoming well noted and famous and going on to become historical celebrities because of it. They simply did it because they're curious, they like obtaining knowledge, and that's just the way that they are. They were quite nonchalant, and it was other people that had to band together to make their studies published and make their impact known later on in life. But what's funny about this is that Aquarius is actually known for being highly intelligent, yet often being quite lazy. They kind of have the energy of somebody who, like an older person that's just kind of done with life. They have all this wisdom and this knowledge, but they're like,
It doesn't matter anyways, whatever.
it's almost like the world bores them too. Like they've already seen so much and they know so much that it's just kind of boring. Like this could be the student in class that aces everything, does every assignment perfectly, passes every exam, but they seem so lazy, like they're barely trying. Or it could be the one that is so intelligent, like a genius, but they're getting bad grades because they just can't be bothered to apply themselves in school. They just can't. And they are insufferably bored by everything they're learning. They think it's so irrelevant. It can take multiple forms, but I think that you get the gist. So, with this being said, I think that it's important that they actively integrate a routine that works for them to keep them accountable. If this placement has the desire to move something forward in their life, they're going to have to realize that they can't work off of motivation alone, because a lot of times they probably don't feel the motivation to get it moving and they just want to indulge in whatever makes them happy pretty much. If you find that you struggle with procrastination with this placement, definitely start figuring out and customizing a routine that works for you and keeping yourself accountable to that routine. Or else, if you don't actually map out steps to get what you want to get done and move something forward, then it's just not going to happen. And if you do want more advice on how to kind of get up and get things done and have more energy in daily life in general, you can watch my recent video all about energy levels. This is definitely somebody who may struggle with energy levels and feel very lethargic in the body most of the time. Number 2, they may struggle with acceptance and connection. Whereas it is beautiful that this person is ready to challenge everything and question everything, and it is one of the many traits that can make them admirable and influential, they can also struggle to accept what is, to be present and accept people for the way that they are and situations for what they are. They can always be searching for something. In this way, they can become constantly dissatisfied with life, constantly dissatisfied with people who are supposed to become their friends, with romantic partners, whatever it could be, or situations that they're in, environments that they're in, because they can tend to always see it through a lens of like, this isn't good enough. This isn't good enough. And they can feel a sense of constant dissatisfaction. Sometimes you just have to realize that certain things are the way that they are, and that's okay. There can be a beauty to the way that things currently are. Things can always be improved. There is always room for improvement in everything. We are never void of both the shadow and the light side of life. That's just a reality. So even though we can look at a situation and examine what can be improved, I also want you to realize, if you have this placement, that there is also almost always beauty that you can find within situations that are not entirely ideal. And not only will this help give you a sense of relief and not feel so uptight and stressed about various situations in your life, but it can also help with human connection and intimacy, which, as I mentioned earlier, can be a challenge for this placement. And a lot of times this placement may wonder, like, what's wrong with me? You know, why can't I express this or show this or whatever it may be? One reason may be you're not being present and you're not being accepting of what is around you. So try to self-examine. This might be more of a shadow work thing, which shadow work can be a little difficult, I know. But definitely start maybe journaling. Start looking up shadow work prompts around acceptance and gratitude and things like that. And start trying to dive into where that's stemming from. It will prove to be very beneficial for you when you can actually do something to also tap into your physical body. So having practices that help you tap into your physical being rather than just being stuck in your brain all the time, try to re-engage energy into the rest of your body and kind of make that flow of energy more cohesive within yourself. I think that this will bleed positively into a lot of areas of your life if you do this. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss future videos like this one. And I know that you want future videos like this one. And leave a comment down below if you have Mars in Aquarius or know somebody who does. I love to know your personal experience because I'm always learning too. So I want to know what you know from your personal experience. So let's chat. You can watch these videos here that'll help you so much more on your self-development journey. But until next time, I appreciate all of you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your time and for your presence. Until the next one, adios.